Hey, it's Mason here from Graphics Master with your 11th tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to cover drop shadows and a couple of different ways to, well, make shadows for objects, depending on what you want the shadow to be. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to open a new file here. I'm just going to name it Shadow Test 1. Okay, and for this one, I'm going to want the background to be blank, because I want the shadow to be black. So I'm going to want the background white. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the pen tool here and just draw a nice curvy line like that and just go off the screen. It doesn't have to connect with the other side, so I'll just leave it. Now I'm going to create a new layer. Make sure that I'm editing that layer. Stay on the pen tool. Right click and make a stroke path. I'm going to change the foreground color to black. And change the size to about 19 pixels. And now I'll make a stroke path. The paintbrush. And then I can get rid of the pen tool. Okay. So now I've got this on a different layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mess around with this. So I'll just go to Outer Glow, I guess, and do something like that. And you can mess around with it, just make it look however you want it to. And a cool one as well is Bevel and Emboss. I like that. And also what you can do is, what I'm going to do here is, you can add some more filters, but I'm just going to leave that for now. Okay, so in order to do a drop shadow, first kind of shadow, you have to go double click on the layer that's not the background. It has to be a new layer. And go to drop shadow here. And you can set the angle of the shadow. I'm going to want to keep that here. Set the color. Normally that's about blackish gray. And then distance is how far away it is in the direction that you chose from the actual object. So because that cuts off there, as you can see, I'm going to change the angle a little bit. Maybe to there. And set the distance to not too far away. And I have to make sure that it doesn't cut off. So I'm not going to want to have the distance too far away. Distance has to be pretty close to the thing itself. And that's about good there. And you can change the spread a little bit. And the size is how big it is. Which also does a Gaussian blur as you increase the size. Okay. Noise is just that. It kind of does the effect of grains. We normally want to keep that at 0 for spells. And we can just leave this all like it is. And you can mess around with the modes a little bit. I'm just going to keep it on normal. Okay. So if I hit OK here, that's one way that you can do a nice little shadow. But that's more of a two-dimensional kind of shadow. And even still, you can still go to filters and do, like, what I like is a neon glow on it. Well, first of all, flatten it. And you can do a nice neon glow. And it looks pretty nice. And then you can put in some text and do the pen tool over it, as I've shown in my 10th tutorial, the last one. That's one way of doing a nice little shadow. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to where we have our pen tool here. And I'm going to create a new layer here and do a stroke path with the paintbrush, which is going to be black. And I'm going to try this again. only I'm going to do a different type of shadow. I'm going to do a 3-dimensional kind of shadow. So what I'm going to want to do is, first of all, I'm going to change this a little bit. So let's undo that, first of all. And let's make the stroke path here. Let's make the background black and the stroke path white for this one. And that looks good. So I'll get rid of the pen tool. And actually, let's change the background. Let's make the background dark red so that we can see all of it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to layer 1, and I'm going to hit Control J or Command J on a Mac. And now I have 2 layers that are, this is a copy of layer 1, which is this one here. And on this one, make sure that I'm editing this one. I'm going to go to the Magic Eraser tool and get rid of the red. Just click once. And now I've just got that line, but the only reason you can see the background is because that one's there, but that's what it looks like. Okay, so still editing layer 2. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Skew. And here, you can skew it and make it look all weird looking. And it does that kind of cool 3D shadow on the ground effect. See, now it looks like it's kind of on the ground, whereas before it looked kind of weird. And you can mess around with that as much as you want to, and just make that look as realistic as possible. And mess around with that. Move it over. And hit OK. And once we've done that, it still doesn't look that real. So now I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and do a Gaussian kind of blur on it, like that. And that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to make it black by going to Image, Adjust, and I'm going to go to Brightness / Contrast. Set the brightness to -100 and the contrast to -100. And I can also, if I want to make it darker, go to Image, Adjust, Curves, and do that. And I'm going to want to keep this more on the grayish side. It's going to be over here. And about there. And that's 2 ways of doing some really cool shadows. And even if you want to, then you can go to layer 2 or layer 1 and mess around with some of the things there, or layer 2. And you can just mess around with some stuff there. You can do more outer glow. And from there, you can pretty much just mess around with it however you want it to be. Alright, well, that's pretty much all I want to cover in this tutorial. So, thanks for watching.